In May 2025, Dario Amodei, the man who founded Anthropic, went on Axio and warned of an AI white-collar bloodbath, and that half of all entry office jobs will be gone and unemployment will rise to 20%. In addition to several industry figures telling the same fortune that AI is coming for your career. You heard that enough times, the claim registers eventually, even if you didn't want to believe them in the first place. 12 months later, May 2026, Amodei on the same subject, he doubles down. Amodei believes now that 10% of the laborers will be doing 90% of the jobs. Output grows exponentially, but because AI will outgrow the speed of achieving J-bond paradox, we should expect weird behavior and this big disruption. Basically, he argues that AI advances faster than economy can absorb it, leading to an era of total chaos. While Amodei plays all in, other tech figures openly speak out against this theory. So who should you believe then? Before you pick a side, mark the incentives. Always do that. And ask the question, what does each gain if you believe in them? Since year 2022, I've been scrutinizing AI adoption and displacement topics. In the next 10 minutes, I will take Amodei's claim apart and show you what the open data actually says. On top of that, I will hand you one question that you can run on any jobs, including your own. The doomsday tale is an earnings tale. To do this, let's rewind to a time when most of us forgot, when money was nearly free. This is the thing about pain. When we feel it so deeply that we forget we ever felt any other way. If you've been suffering the pain of a slow economy since 2022, let me start by reminding you of better times, because money was close to free ever since central banks slammed interest rates to the floor after 2009. Even though the pandemic time was painful for its own reasons, it also gave white-collar workers the loosest labor market of the generation. Between 2019 and 2022, Meta went roughly from 45,000 employees to about 87,000, nearly doubled in 3 years. Not just Meta, but every company with sufficient revenue to borrow saw the same thing. Cheap capital, a pandemic that seemed permanent, and online everything boomed, and executives convinced that the surge in demand would stick around forever. As office workers, we also got our cut of the pie because we worked from home, we enjoyed the greatest freedom and pocketing a generous pay raise and bonus. Then the music stopped. When the pandemic-era supply shortages met a sharp rebound in demand, while energy prices jumped after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, causing inflation and forcing the Fed, the BOE, and many other central banks to act in the same way. A nearly 500 base points hike within a year. To put this in context, this is a much sharper climb than the one even before the 2008 crisis. Shortly, the CEOs could no longer afford the commitments that they'd made to white-collar workers, as rising interest rates made the debt they owed more expensive than they had ever planned for. So they were forced to act. The quickest way, of course, to cut the cost is to cut personnel spending. With this, they could either admit that we've overhired and we got it wrong, for example, as Zuckerberg actually said in his late 22's message. At the start of COVID, the world rapidly moved online and a surge of e-commerce led to outsized revenue growth. Many people predict that this would be a permanent acceleration that would continue even after the pandemic ended. I did too. And I made this decision to significantly increase our investments. And then he continues, we've cut costs and we're restructuring teams in order to increase our efficiency. But these measures alone won't bring our expenses in line with our revenue growth. More importantly, he said, I've also made the hard decision to let people go. Or the executives can go with this message instead. We found AI can replace human workers and now we're an AI-first company. The first message tanked your share price. The latter gives your shareholder peace of mind. So you don't need me to tell you which one most of them reached for. By the way, do you think most people need a reality check about AI? Hype and share this video so more can see this. The disproportionate claim. So now you know the motive. The question is, which direction does the evidence support? 4 years and counting. I've been tracking AI, especially large language model adoptions. I've seen only a handful of successful implementations, and even then that they mostly handled repetitive tasks, not replace the jobs that those tasks belong to. Then you might ask, how does a task differ from a full-time job? And that's a valid one. So let's list out a job you care about, like your own. For example, a software engineer can be broken down into 10 or even 15 discrete tasks, apart from typing code. Well, this is the favorite term from a CEO I worked for, and I didn't get along well with them. You need to groom tickets with product managers or pair code with your teammates. If you're a lead, you will even need to spend time in performance review or have one-to-one meetings and so on. Yes, AI can speed up coding, but this is a task, not a job. So hold this distinction because the whole question of whether AI takes your role comes down to it. AI can draft a basic legal contract or create marketing materials. All these are tasks. So the success of AI implementations is currently stuck at the task level. By the way, watch this analysis of Stanford AI's index because I talked about benchmarks on tasks versus workflow. So if AI is only clearing tasks, not jobs, what explains the reason for those disproportionate thousands or even tens of thousands of AI-attributed layoffs? So here's a line of thought. When questions get messy, the answer with the fewest assumptions is usually the answer, if you're familiar with Occam's razor. So the simplest explanation here, when CEOs and the media say AI will replace engineers, the former are likely lying and the latter are parrots. Here are 3 latest data points from micro to macro that I'm walking you through. While most companies claim that they lay off because of AI, as this chart shows, the untold truth is in the exact same report, 59% also admitted that they emphasize AI in their layoff announcements because it plays better with shareholders than saying, oh, we have a budget problem. And there's only 9% said that AI had genuinely fully replaced the rules. Now, zoom out to the wider job market. The aggregate agrees. Another firm that has counted American layoffs for decades logged about 1.5 million job cuts in 2025. The number of roles pinned on AI, only 55,000, under 5%, ranked even behind government cuts, behind market conditions, and also behind plain restructuring. Now, let's zoom out even further, shall we? Just have a guess what the unemployment rate was in April 2026. That's 4.3%. Most economists would file this under healthy, slightly tight labor markets rather than crisis. See the chart here, especially if you compare it with the period between 2008 and 2012. And of course, ignore the COVID peak, which was driven by service section job losses. So across all levels, the company level survey, the layoff count, and the BLS official unemployment rate, no matter how reluctant, the data aligns. So basically, AI showed up late, small, and overhyped. Some well-known figures have started calling out the BS. Take Mark Anderson, for example, the co-founder of Netscape, then a venture capitalist, who called AI the silver bullet excuse and reckoned most large companies are 25 to 75% overstaffed, left over from the COVID years. Or the latest from Andrew, businesses have a strong incentive to talk about layoffs as if they were caused by AI. Talking about how they're using AI to be far more productive with fewer staff makes them look smart. This is also a much better message than admitting that they overhired during the pandemic era when capital was abundant due to low interest rates and a massive government financial stimuli. So the data is clear, i.e. AI isn't responsible for the firing. But I get it, the not yet is a cold comfort if you don't know what to watch for. So if you want to know whether your own job is safe, you need something more doable that can hold up no matter how the conditions change. So let's talk about the first principle of jobs. Here's a cleaner way to think about all this jobapocalypse joke than the ATM story you've probably already heard of. In the case that you never heard of this ATM story, here's the short version. So ATMs arrived in 1970s and many declared that bank teller dead, but the opposite happened. Yes, there were fewer tellers per branch, but then opening a branch became much cheaper, meant banks could open more of them in towns that had no previous footprint, and the total number of tellers actually grew. Here's the twist though. As mobile banking grew, tellers started disappearing. See this chart. So what does this story tell us? Nope, not the J-bomb paradox, because that was too academic. Instead, under the first principle, it's just a simple supply and demand dynamic at the fundamental level. We need to start by asking, why does a job even exist? A job isn't granted to you so you can pay for your baby's diapers or your own. A job exists because someone somewhere feels a pain sharp enough to pay in order to make it go away. A company builds something to solve that pain, and you're one of the screw holding the solution together. If we apply this thinking and ask, why a teller to begin with? It's because we want to make a transaction or cancel one or save money or lend some. Then the next sensible question would become, then why didn't ATMs replace tellers? Instead, they created more. And if we look back at the period between 1970s and 2000s, apart from what we have already talked about, that banks were experiencing growth, there was a significant technology gap, and ATMs only addressed part of the issue when it involves moving money. You could get cash at 11 p.m., yes, but you still need a branch to do almost everything else, like transfer money, dispute a charge, or open an account. The pain couldn't be fully resolved by this big bulky machine, so teller numbers didn't collapse. They shifted to more on-site banking. But if you fast forward 20 years, in the post-internet era, nearly everyone has access to internet now, and everyone has a mobile phone. So when the US payment system and online banking is finally getting more mature, so more features that were only on the screen in front of a bank teller are now also on your phone. You can do the transaction or anything you want to do with your money anywhere, anytime, no queue. Once the full job moved to your phone and the branch became optional, that's when teller numbers fell. Therefore, what ended teller's job wasn't ATMs, but something else that provides a complete solution. A much better experience at a much lower cost, more accessible, and software that can be updated easily. Or take myself, for example. I was an operational product lead, but not because customers wanted a product lead. In fact, I don't think many of them ever heard of this job title before, but simply because our customers get hungry plus angry, and want food. The food delivery company needs someone to maintain the operational systems their admins use. Hence, they paid me for it. Just like if the world had no thieves, then what would the police be good for? With this simple principle, you can answer the question of basically any jobs that are deemed at risk. Why engineer? Why an accountant? Why a customer service representative? And why a lawyer? So, the question, will this job disappear, was always the wrong one to ask. Try this one instead. What did customers actually need? And will this new technology make the journey to satisfy the need smoother? Now, I talked about this in why AI shopping isn't going to work. It's the same principle. People won't buy via AI shopping, no matter how fancy it sounds, because it has fundamentally ignored the need when you shop. So AI, in any case, will only cure a rule when it finally satisfies the underlying needs or remove a pain well enough that the rule stops being needed at all, which, with the current state of AI capability, isn't going to happen. Now, here's your homework. Run the following tasks to evaluate your own work. Start with, break down your job into tasks. Second, write down the pain your role exists to remove. Finally, look at where AI actually is in relation to that pain. On top of that, you need to ignore everything else around it because these are likely noise. Do share your exercise in the comments. I would really like to know how it goes for you. Last thing to keep in mind, only pain and the fundamental need matters. As long as AI is still running in circles, you have time. When it closes the gap, you will also likely be the first one to know before any earning announcements. If you find this one answered your question about jobs, also watch this.